An empire of millions collapsed in just 2 years. How did it happen? The year is 1519, and somewhere in the New World, a great warrior is about to return home from battle. He leads his men through the towering gates of the great city of Tenochtitlán, a city of millions situated on a beautiful lake. Its many canals are full of boats, and the air buzzes with the cries of merchants selling their wares in the many markets. As he walks through the busy streets, he sees men weaving in vibrant colors, others practicing the art of war, and still more engaged in religious rituals. Everywhere there is life, laughter, music, and celebration. This is a magnificent city, one of the greatest achievements of the pre-Columbian Americas, and it stands at the height of its power. But then, suddenly, everything changes. The warrior looks up and sees black sails on the horizon, and as he watches, 3 ships come closer and closer. But what are these ships doing here? And who are the men inside them? Let's find out. Sometime around the year 1473, 2 powerful Mesoamerican tribes united to form the Aztec Empire. Over the next 60 years, they would conquer much of central Mexico and dominate a large number of native tribes. Their new capital was Tenochtitlan, an island city in Lake Texcoco. By the early 16th century, it had become one of the largest cities in the world, with a population of over 300,000 people. The empire thrived due to a combination of factors. Their chinampas, or artificial islands, revolutionized agriculture, enabling them to grow enough food to sustain such a massive urban center. Imposing temples dominated the skyline and served as both religious buildings and centers of political and economic activity. Every aspect of Aztec society, from agriculture to religion to war, revolved around ritual and tradition. Human sacrifice was central to their faith, a means of giving back to the gods the life force necessary for the continued existence of the universe. But all of this would soon come to an end. In 1519, a Spanish conquistador named Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico with 500 men, seeking gold and glory for himself and his king. What follows is one of the most dramatic clashes of civilizations in history. As the Spanish ships approached the coast, the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma sent a small fleet to meet them. On board were hundreds of warriors ready to defend their empire from any potential threat. But when the two met, no battle took place. Instead, the Aztecs and the Spaniards spent several days trading goods and getting to know one another. While the Spanish were initially wary of the Aztecs, they soon realized that they were vastly outnumbered and that a direct confrontation would be disastrous. Instead, Cortés decided to form alliances with some of the rival tribes who hated Aztec rule, such as the Tlaxcalans. Then he turned his attention to the heart of the empire. In 1519, Cortés and his men entered the great city of Tenochtitlan. It was an experience that would stay with him for the rest of his life. He described the city as, quote, "the finest and most magnificent that I have ever seen," end quote. There were no wild cheers when the Spaniards entered the city. They were met by a group of Aztec nobles led by the Emperor Moctezuma. Cortés, who had studied Nahuatl, the Aztec language, greeted the emperor in his own tongue, asking for permission to visit the city. Impressed by Cortés's knowledge of their language and customs, Moctezuma granted his request. The Spaniards were stunned by what they saw. Tenochtitlan was a marvel of pre-Columbian engineering and architecture. The roads were straight and lined with trees. There were many merchants and artisans selling their wares in the street. The Spaniards were particularly impressed by the Aztec tribute, which included gold items, feathers, and slaves. The Aztecs believed that by giving tribute to their emperor, they were paying homage to the gods. To them, Moctezuma was a god king, and the tribute was a way of showing their devotion to him. However, the Spaniards saw this as a form of wealth redistribution, and they were eager to get their hands on some of that gold. And then there were the horses. Horses were unknown in the Americas before the arrival of the Spanish. The Aztecs had never seen anything like them. They were so tall, so strong, and so fast. The Spaniards used the horses to their advantage, riding them into battle and using them to transport goods. This gave them a significant advantage over the Aztecs, who were on foot. One of the things that struck the Spaniards most about the Aztecs was their religion. The Aztecs worshipped many gods, and they believed that the world was constantly being destroyed and recreated. This belief led to the practice of human sacrifice, which was common throughout Mesoamerica. To the Spaniards, this was a barbaric custom, and they were eager to convert the Aztecs to Christianity. Despite the differences between the two cultures, there was still a great deal that the Spaniards and Aztecs had in common. Both were highly civilized, with complex systems of government and religion. Both were warlike, and both were quick to take advantage of the other's weaknesses. In the end, it was these similarities, as well as the vast technological and military superiority of the Spaniards, that allowed them to conquer such a powerful empire. After spending several weeks in the capital, Cortés decided it was time to move on. He thanked Moctezuma for his hospitality and told him that he was leaving to continue exploring the coast. But Cortés had other plans. He had come to Mexico to conquer it, and he knew that the only way to do that was to destroy Tenochtitlan. He began by making alliances with the city's enemies, then set about besieging it. Soon, the Spanish were at war with the Aztecs. The fighting was brutal, and neither side would back down. But as the war dragged on, it became clear that the Aztecs were winning. The Spanish were outnumbered and their supplies were running low. Then suddenly everything changed. A group of Spanish soldiers returned from a scouting mission, and with them, a deadly cargo, smallpox. The disease swept through the Aztec Empire like wildfire. Millions died, including the Emperor Moctezuma. With their leader dead and their population decimated, the Aztecs were unable to resist the Spanish invasion. By 1521, the Spanish had laid siege to the city of Tenochtitlan. The streets were on fire, the canals filled with fighting. The once proud temples were falling. One by one, the Aztec warriors fought bravely, but they were no match for the Spanish conquistadors. Finally, on August 13, 1521, Tenochtitlan fell. The Aztec Empire was no more. In the aftermath of the conquest, the Spanish divided the land into the Viceroyalty of New Spain, which would become the core of modern-day Mexico. The old ways of life were gone forever, but the legacy of the Aztec Empire lives on. In the end, the fall of the Aztecs was not just about Spanish conquest. It was about alliances, disease, and cultural upheaval. All of these factors combined to create the perfect storm that led to the demise of one of the greatest civilizations in history, an empire built over centuries undone in just 2 years. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to watch another one I did on how Venice conquered the Mediterranean. Thanks for watching.